Thousands and thousands of love dollars.
Lots and lots of stuff to talk about today. So.
Really? What are we talking about today?
Well, we're gonna kick that off.
Oh, I'm bigger now. Sweet.
Yeah, we're nice and big now. How are you doing today?
Well, as I mentioned before briefly, I'm not really doing the best today. I didn't sleep too well last night, but overall, in all earnesty, I'm doing okay. I'm a little bit better since running the show right now, and got to be at 110% to keep up with all the fun that we're going to be having in today's broadcast.
Of course, yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I'm doing all right.
Wait a second, hold on. And how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We're just awesome. Chilling today. Cool. Throw that up here real quick. We
got the t-shirt.
Canuckleheads. We got official stream business before we actually kick off the show. We have the Canuckleheads official t-shirt. We have the official logos here. All this wonderfully fun stuff.
It's so hot just for summertime.
We have the blankets.
Blankets so fluffy.
We have the stickers. They actually should be showing up this week.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. What's the turnaround time for stuff like this? I'm assuming it's fairly quick, even with the recent pandemic slowly getting in the rearview mirror.
Normally it's a bit faster with the COVID stuff and all that stuff. It's a bit delayed, but it's probably been a week or so before.
Well, that's not bad.
It ships from the U.S., so
okay.
If you're looking for it from the U.S., there you go.
If you live in America, you get it pretty damn quick. Live in Canada, it comes quick. Not as quick as living in America, but it comes quick.
Bunch of hosers, yeah, that's right.
That's right, eh?
Bunch of hosers.
Well, look at that t-shirt. As I said before in multiple broadcasts, I'm always tickled pink with our wonderful black t-shirt with the red trim around the collar.
Oh, I love it.
I think it looks absolutely dashing. And of course, who made this design again? I keep forgetting.
That was my design.
That is your design.
I made that myself from my own
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Hours and hours of work coming together just to bring some wonderful, fantastic, wonderful apparel. You can work for any occasion, including the best occasion, watching our broadcast.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple of interesting things to talk about today.
That's cool.
One brief, small, quiet little announcement before. You might want to tune into next week's show because we have some special guests joining us. Potentially some special guests. I'm not going to name names, but they may be some people that some people might be really interested in listening.
And I signed the affidavit. I can't say anything either.
So, yeah, you might want to tune into next week's show.
Yeah,
but we're not talking about next week's show. We're talking about this week's show.
We're talking about today's show.
We're talking about hashtag fuck that.
Oh, we're running with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Toy, for bringing this particular hashtag to our attention.
Yeah, no. So, I think it was you that brought that one up. Actually, full credit where that's due.
Okay, well, you know what? I'll accept the credit.
Yeah.
But however, the funny thing is that people can watch your previous broadcasts to see exactly who came up with that credit or not. Horribly don't mind Crumb within the description. Somewhere maybe we can include a URL.
It'll be in the playlist.
Okay, that's cool. Awesome.
I want to check out the playlist.
Wait a minute, we have a playlist?
We do have a playlist.
That's so cool.
I know, it's pretty neat.
I was unaware.
YouTube's really interesting like that. So it automatically just pops it right in every time that we're done.
Sweet. All right, so how do we kick off today's wonderful, fantastic show?
Well, like some people may have read in the description, we're going to be talking about hashtags today. I have gotten myself some Jack Daniel's honey to wash this down because it's going to be a really spicy talk.
That sounds absolutely divine. Myself, I just woke up, so I'm just enjoying some wonderful cold H2O.
Yeah.
With a hint of nothing except water.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
It very might well be Gelth. Gelth Walker says, is it Ron Toye? We'll have to see. Have to tune in next week. Have to find out. Could be somebody else, could be multiple people. Yeah, could be interesting.
Who knows? Who really knows?
I know. Well, but I don't want to spoil the surprise.
And we have an idea, but we don't want to false deliver something that we really can't deliver.
No, I don't want to spoil the surprise. So
yeah, you have to tune in.
We're talking about hashtag movements.
Yeah,
we're talking about all sorts of bullshit that's been going on. Basically, this kind of like ties into recent events, both without actually trying. I wasn't planning on talking about stuff that I didn't have planned to talk about.
Okay.
Like the riots and stuff like that happening.
Oh yeah. Minnesota burning. As we're talking, I think it's coming to a crispy well done. But I've heard that things are slowly moving.
It's Minnesota, it's Atlanta, it's New York, it's Philadelphia, it's Portland.
New York's burning?
Well,
that's interesting.
More than it normally is. Yes.
Okay, I got confused there. Gotcha.
But
all right.
Yeah, so basically, like this is going to factor into it a little bit. I'm not going to dive too much into it because I don't want my existence to get yeeted off the planet for having an opinion. So
ooh. Who wants to see that happen? I don't.
Well, yeah. Briefly, speaking of getting yeeted off the planet, SpaceX launched successfully today.
That's right. That's the same people brought you the Tesla. There it is. There we go. Yeah. I haven't really seen anything negative take place yet. So I'm assuming the launch went well.
From what I understand, everything went exceptionally well. They were docking to the International Space Station.
That's amazing.
Know. Apparently, the rocket itself was supposed to self-guide itself back down to the surface. I don't know if that happened, but
well, we'll find out.
Interesting stuff. Very, very cool. So, congratulations to SpaceX. Congratulations to Bob and Doug. I'm not even kidding. Those were the astronauts' names. What a day.
Take off, eh? You know
Take
what?
Off, eh?
That sounds like a really good idea. But we go out in outer space and stuff. Sounds cool, Hoser.
Bob and Doug made it successly into outer space. So
that's awesome.
That's very happy for them and very happy for the prospects of what that means. But yeah, so hashtag movements, because this is something that's kind of been like pissing me off for a very, very long time. So,
oh goodness.
First of all, if people out there don't know, I mean, movements have existed for a very, very long time, right?
Yep.
There's I myself, I personally was part of not the original push for the LGBT movement. Well, back then it was the LGB movement. Right. But one of the big pushes for the gay marriage and stuff like that, I was part of that, those protests and things like that. We never burnt any shit down. We never did any crazy stuff like that. But then again, it's there was also not hashtags back in that day.
That's true.
Do you remember the life before the internet, Mr. Hunt?
Oh, I do. I very, very much do. Someone got upset. They went out and they protest, or they put up flyers around town saying, "I have to bring this to your attention." You look at the flyers, say, "Thank you very much for your time and trouble." Usually, you keep the flyer in a scrapbook, or you jettison the flyer into your nearest recyclable trash bin, or something along those lines. Life before hashtags. That almost feels like a lifetime away, to borrow a term. But goodness gracious. Yeah, I'm from both sides of the fence. Remember, again, life before hashtags and sayings, and now today you can't have a movement without tripping across a hashtag.
Well, isn't that interesting, though? You say that, hashtags and sayings. hashtags were supposed to be just sayings, right?
Yeah.
They were supposed to just be like interesting little quirky things that you just put on the internet and people talk about it. But now it's turned into like you have to have a hashtag and you have to have some sort of thing attached to it. Like,
yeah, that's for sure. And also with the world of the internet, you need that hashtag or pound sign, if you will, to help get people towards your site or your actual movements or whatever it is you're putting together online type of thing. As an example, I like to think we use the power of the pound sign for our event, for our fun of stuff. For example, for Kitchener Comic Con, we always use KCC insert number plus date plus whatever saying or hashtag we're using after that type of thing, and it's just weird that way. But we'll roll with it.
It was always something that used to like connect things and like connect a bunch of different topics together or whatever else. It used to be something powerful. Like we used Be Legendary as a hashtag, and that was very successful.
Yep.
I don't understand where this is kind of turned. Like, I guess we'll start out by talking a little bit about how to create a hashtag and a hashtag movement.
For sure.
Start it a little bit light.
All right.
Then we'll dig in the daggers a little bit.
All right. I almost like to dig into, no pun intended, your very first experience by using the hashtag.
You know, I can't remember it.
Yeah. That's the funny part.
I can't remember my first hashtag.
Yeah, the funny thing is that for my first hashtag had to be more conjunction with the events that I'm a part of and run. But however, I think the very first time I tripped across the hashtag has to be Black Lives Matter. So,
that was a very famous one.
Yeah,
I mean, it's an important statement for people out there who are, you know, for or against it, what have you. That's your opinion.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is the movement Black Lives Matter was started not because Black Lives Matter more, but because Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And I know people out there are saying, well, hashtag all lives matter, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
It's the point is that you don't have to, as a fair-skinned person, you don't have to walk outside and fear that you're going to be arrested for just walking down the street because you look like a certain color or you might look like somebody. I mean, that might be the case in some countries, but in North America, that's not the case.
Especially here in Canada.
Well, Canada, yeah. I mean, like that's the other thing too. There's other stuff behind that, but to explain to people out there that don't understand what Black Lives Matter means, Black Lives Matter means like in America, in Canada, in North America, as a generic whole. I don't know about the UK. I would assume it's similar, but a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the reason that there was Black Lives Matter was because there's a disproportionate amount of hate and suspicion and paranoia against people with darker skin colors.
Yeah.
And that is historically true, categorically true, and a disproportionate amount of violence from police to people based on skin color and based on race. And based on walk of life, you know, if they're poor or whatever else, if they're less inclined, if they're less fortunate, they're treated less fairly in most situations. I'm not saying all police, as I know some police are great, some police are very good, but on the flip coin, every basket has its bad apples. Mm-hmm. So the hashtag Black Lives Matter is important. I think. Unfortunately, it is succumbing to a lot of what we've been seeing in terms of a bunch of other stuff where people are latching onto that hashtag and they're attaching it to things that it doesn't belong to.
So hijacking the hashtag?
You could say that.
Yeah.
And I don't know when this started. I don't know when it was a thing to start doing that. I guess like one of the most prominent ones I would say that got hijacked and ran into a tree was Me Too.
Okay.
So basically, when you want to start a movement, when you want to start a hashtag, you want to group together a bunch of like-minded individuals, right? So like the LGBT movement back in the day, we wanted to rally together around, and I'll say, and I'll talk about this because this is something that's very important. When the LGBT movement started, there was no LGBT, there was no LGBTQ. It was lesbians, gays, That was it. And bisexuals were added in there. Now, I will say, around the time that I got involved in it, lesbians and gays did not want to be associated with bisexuals.
Interesting.
So lesbians, from what I was understanding of the time, and from lesbian friends and everything else, they did not like women who were bisexual.
All right.
They were very, very nasty towards them. Gay men would chastise men who were bisexual and look down their nose at them, saying, well, they're just lying to themselves. They're gay men, but they just don't want to admit it fully. So the bisexuals were like in this bubble that were never really accepted, and they were kind of jammed into the LGB movement and kind of like, okay. And then when you insert things like transsexuals and transgender, then they became the outcasts, right? Because, well, they're not really men, they're not really women, blah, 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 blah. So they're not really gay, they're not really part of this movement. And so when you look at the stuff and gender queers and the queer and all that other stuff, that got lumped in. And then more people got mad because the movement started taking away from what they wanted it to be.
So basically it changed and...
Well, it grew.
Yeah.
And I mean, in my opinion, the LGBT movement, like LGBT plus movement, grew for the better. I mean, there is unfortunately a lot of people that take that for their own individual. I think it probably grew too much because now it's beyond a point of being able to control. Yeah. And I hate the word control, because I'm not saying like from a gatekeeping perspective, but from a quality control perspective. Because when you have a movement that's so big, that's so vast, that no one person has like basically quality control over, you're going to start getting people that sneak in under the guise of like X, Y, or Z. Like say that I'm a supporter of LGBT rights, you know, and then they sneak in there and then they twist it around, and it's like, well, now for example, like look at any sort of company. I'm going to use that rainbow, and I'm going to use that as a marketing ploy. And I'm not going to actually care about LGBT rights 99% of the time, but like that 1% where it actually gets me money, I'm going to care about it then.
Gotcha. Yeah, that happens more often than not, especially in different protest movements and stuff like that, depending on how long it runs on for, and depends on how much the oh goodness gracious, how can I put this? It really depends on how the opposition wishes to smash it. If they can co-opt it, get involved with it, wreck it from the inside out, type of thing. And sometimes it happens, because I believe back in the 60s and the 70s, while they usually smash protest movements, is that CIA, FBI, clothed, plain people used to come into movements and stuff like that and say, hey, how about we take the movement versus from this direction over to this direction? And people went, that's a really good idea. The next thing you know, the movement has been corrupted from what it used to be, and it's no longer the same thing. New leaders or protest movement people that put the whole thing together, if we can't use the word leader here, really start get separated from the base core of things, and then the whole thing just changes over and loses its momentum.
Well, you end up getting factions, right?
Yeah.
You end up getting factions. You end up getting splinter cells.
Splinter cells, yeah. Splinter groups.
It's splinter groups of each faction, and then those 1% of groups do shit.
Yeah,
that is detrimental to the rest of the faction, to the rest of the group, and it looks bad on everybody, and everybody gets painted because of the people that are the worst kind of the entire thing.
Yep, and I believe over my lifetime, there's been several movements that started off really, really good, equality for all, and then the next thing you know, it seems to be mutated into a single-minded, different direction type of thing, and that's what started off and was really positive and equal for everybody, just seemed to devolve into something that wasn't originally intended for, and it becomes tainted and won't be a part of it. It sort of dies in the vine type of thing.
Well, it's one of those things, like it goes on for too long, right? And so when you're starting a movement, and this doesn't have to be hashtags, it can be hashtags, but when you're starting a movement, you have to have a clear, concise point and an end game. You have to.
A declaration.
You have to have an end goal.
Yeah.
Right? Because like if your goal is to just continuously do something, it's going to fall apart.
Yep.
Bottom line. You can only, there is no such thing as perpetual motion. You can only go so far with things. You cannot continue doing something and get people to be on board with it the same 100% of the time for a very long period of time. You can do it for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Like, you can push for things like the whole LGB movement was pushing for gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And rights for gay people, for gay and lesbians and same-sex partners to get married. Yep. That was successful in pushing to get gay marriage and same-sex marriage pushed in Canada. Not so much in the rest of the world, but at least in Canada, that was successful.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the movement is still going beyond, because originally the Pride movement, we'll say, that was about getting rights for people who were not just straight.
Yeah.
Making it so that people who were gay or lesbian or whatever that did not fit into that one box, that they could go out in the street and not get pummeled to death.
Yeah.
I think we've succeeded in that.
Oh, I most definitely.
And I don't know about random Joe person out there, but I can walk out on the street, I don't look like a normal person most of the time. I mean,
what does a normal person look like in today's time? Do they have long hair, earrings? Do they wear glasses?
The thing is, it's a lot of 9 times out of 10, my looks don't match my voice, and that puts a lot of people off. And I'm not disillusioned by that at all. So 9 times out of 10, people are going to raise eyebrows at me, but I'd rather them raise eyebrows than raise fists.
Well,
right.
Yeah.
And I think from where we were, because this is something that I've lived through. All right. I grew up as a cisgender straight person. Mm-hmm. Right. I did not realize who or what I was until much later in my life. But when I was growing up, I saw kids who were gay that came out and literally get the shit beaten out of them in the middle of the day, in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
To a bloody pulp. I saw that happening. I saw the violence towards people. That was in my lifetime. Now, 20 years later, I don't see that anymore. Not to say it doesn't happen, because I'm sure it does in some places. But the greater majority, the greater scheme of things, that does not happen anymore.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that when I was growing up, especially involved in stage and theater, again, there was a lot of equality that was involved in those particular entertainment pursuits. And the thing is that I was I wouldn't say raised, but I was involved heavily in those circle of things. So mm-hmm. The thing is that me going to one of the toughest high schools in the region, there was always fights and stuff like that, but there wasn't really any fights over sexual orientation. And this is going back in the 80s and 90s. I don't know. Maybe I just got lucky. Maybe I didn't see it. Maybe I didn't hear of it. But at the same time, I wasn't really super duper active within the community of my high school. I could only really comment on the things I was a part of and what I saw firsthand. Again, yeah, a lot of that sensitivity when I was growing up, as it was there, you never heard. At least at my high school, someone getting beaten up because they were gay or lesbian. So, but the thing is that those topics were talked about openly within classroom settings and stuff like that. So, again, just my personal experience for what it's worth.
I grew up in a very conservative city. I grew up in a very conservative, traditionally blue city, and blue in Canada means conservative. Gareth Walker says that just being different at school usually gets branded for gay and then beaten. Yeah, absolutely. Wearing basically wearing goth stuff or wearing rainbow colorful stuff, and if you did not fit into this very small thing, then yeah. But no, I saw that stuff all the time, and I mean I saw it straight down from the fight to open a gay club in the city, and then the fight to keep it open, and constantly, and to the point where the mayor had changed the zoning of where the gay club was so that bars and clubs were not allowed to be there.
Interesting.
And they pushed them out of the city and forced them to move. It was very, very weird times, to say the least. It was, and so when I see that stuff, like when I see all these movements and stuff like that, it's like people don't know what it's like to be in an oppressed atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like and like I'm not, like, obviously I'm not black. Obviously.
What?
So I know. Shocker. I think the hair gives it away.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm not. Obviously I'm not subject to racial tensions because I've always grown up in white cities. So I don't know what it's like to be, like, prejudiced against because of my skin color. I do know what it's like to be prejudiced against because of sexuality. I do know what it's like to be prejudiced against because of gender. So those are two things I do know, and I actively have that happen to me all the time. But the fact of the matter is, it's like that's their problem. That's the problem of the person that's doing it.
Yep.
Because the world is changing, whether people like it or not, and that type of prejudice is going to be filtered out because it's a world of efficiency. It doesn't matter if you're fucking, like, what your skin color is or what your gender is or what it is. Doesn't fucking matter anymore. Nope. It matters if you are good at what you do. It matters, like, for example, like I was a hiring manager. Like I was a manager for a company for a very, very long time. And I would get people in all the time. And I would deal with, like, all sorts of people, like all different walks of life, all different, like, what have you, all different skill sets. When I get people in, so this is to give people out there an idea. This is a over the telephone, non face to face, verbal only communication service that is English only, talking to people who speak English.
Yeah.
So when I get someone in an interview, I have to judge their ability to speak English. I have to, and I like,
makes sense.
And I have to judge it from a perspective of a person that is not necessarily going to take someone who has an accent very well.
Yeah.
Now, that's not saying that I'm, like, I can understand accents. I can understand most people speaking, even through very, very thick accents, even through English as a fifth language. I can understand them. But when I have somebody in and they don't speak a word of English, and like they don't have the skill sets, and they don't have the ability, and they're slow typing, they're slow to react, I can't hire them.
Yeah.
Not because of their skin color, but because they fail to meet the minimum standard. I have turned away white people. I've turned away men, I've turned away women, I've turned away plenty of people that were not fit for the job. And I think there's a lot of people out there that can't and never were taught how to manage disappointment, and how to take personal responsibility over things. And so obviously it's not their fault that they were hired. It's your fault because you're racist. It's your fault because this or that. It's your fault because this movement that I'm a part of tells me it's your fault.
Oh, Jesus, that's heavy.
It's true, isn't it?
Well, it's heavy, regardless of the way you slice it. It's always almost, I was almost say daunting, for goodness sakes. It's like, hey, because you're dyslexia, have a spelling problem, we really can't take you on for a job that involves typing.
No, here's a great thing, right? Here's a great thing. Say that you yourself, because you have dyslexia, you want to be coding. You understand how important it is to put the right things and whatever else. And if you're
goodness gracious, yep, difference between comma and semicolon. Goodness.
So if you don't get hired for a company because of that, that is technically discrimination. As it is right now. Right? Interesting. However, you fully well know, and you fully will accept that it's not the company's fault that's a requirement. That's a requirement of the job. It's like you wouldn't hire a blind person to drive a car.
Well, this is true.
You wouldn't hire a blind person to drive an Uber.
I think they're working on that now.
Well,
yeah, but please continue. Yeah.
So it's just like, it's just one of those things. It's like people need to understand that while you might not be good at some things, you are good at other things.
Yep.
Right? Like, because a person is not a banker doesn't mean that they cannot be an artist.
Yeah.
Or does it mean that they can't succeed in being a manager at a different company?
Yep.
Like, it's this weird thing that everyone is pushing in this entitlement that everyone's entitled to do everything. It's like, no, find out what you're good at and then pursue that.
And also on top of that, have the right qualifications for the right job.
Well, exactly.
Yep.
And have and this is the other part too. It's I find it really unfortunate that we haven't found a way to do this. I mean, it's 2020 and we haven't figured out how to do this yet. Why are we turning away doctors from like India?
I think I could answer that to a smaller degree for what it's worth. Once again, it depends on their oh goodness gracious,
the qualifications and stuff.
And education. It's education. It also comes down to basic health practices from one region to another or one country for another. As an example, if you involve yourself in a lot of Eastern medicine that's different from Western medicine, especially called acupuncture and stuff like that type of thing, there are some doctors that will not even treat you with Western medicine if you're taking different forms of acupuncture. And the thing is that this is a very, very small aspect of things. And so if you blow that nugget up a little bit more, that explains a lot in those aspects. And at the same time here, if the education parallels are the same, I don't know why they couldn't expedite the actual doctors or education, the diploma education.
That's my thought on it. Yeah, it's like, why can't they have an expedited process for that?
For sure, especially if there's the right check marks in the right areas, type of thing. Again, it all comes down to what type of medicine they're practicing and where they're practicing medicine in. So that leads down a whole different rabbit hole as well. So, goodness.
Yeah. So like I don't know enough about these systems to really have an opinion on it, but it's always found like I've always been that curious. But like when you look at stuff, so getting back to the hashtags, when you look at stuff like the hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag Me Too, you have people that genuinely and they have a very honest to God true vision for it. Like hashtag Me Too, very good message originally.
Yeah,
was like people should feel confident to stand up. People should feel confident in numbers to share their stories. It's kind of like an AA meeting, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're. I mean, I'm not saying that Me Too is an AA meeting. I'm just saying like people are more comfortable sharing their stories and sharing their stuff around people who are like-minded and who have had similar stories.
Yeah.
So that's the premise behind Me Too. But people have latched onto it for their own selfish means and reasons, and they are taking that and bringing it and weaponizing it. And I think that's a problem.
And also co-opting it as well along the way, which is very unfortunate.
Which we're seeing with hashtag Black Lives Matter. We're seeing it with the Antifa movement as well. Like these are movements that are suffering from splinter groups that are taking and perverting the reason for the movements.
And
a lot of what happens as well is you see media, like big media, they focus on these tiny groups because they're desperate for content just like anybody else is. So they're focusing on these tiny little groups and they're spotlighting and they're microscoping on these tiny little groups that are, setting a dumpster on fire, for example, instead of all the people that are doing all the good stuff, because good stuff doesn't sell paper.
Yep. Did you hear what happened to Jimmy Fallon?
No, I didn't.
Basically, Jimmy Fallon did a comedy skit on Saturday Night Live back 20 years ago, and I believe he had to don blackface makeup to make the skit work it was a part of, so forth, and etc. Well, basically, this is the funny thing is you're absolutely correct, and I just heard recently that he's been canceled from his Nightlight TV show because of that. But however, I kind of find that odd because the thing is that this is right after our pandemic thing, this sort of hit, and it's interesting how all these new hashtags are now popping up and how they're gaining a momentum and steam along the way, because basically Jimmy Fallon apologized for the skit that was done over 20 years ago, and may I say once again on national television where he's actually contracted to do these skits. The thing is that you can't say no to the producers at SNL, because as soon as you do, what's the new terminology where you're no longer scheduled to work, but you're
blackballed?
Still not quite. Well, there's blackballed, but there's new terminology. But you know what? We'll figure it out later. But long story short, the thing is that you have to do what your producers tell you to do, because if you don't, you're done. It's over. Like that there's no humming and hawing. That's it, because they'll find some other lackey to take the position. And from there, Jimmy Fallon built up his credibility, himself as an artist, as well as a producer, a writer, an actor, and all that's in between. And it's really weird to see once again the hashtag Jimmy Fallon, hashtag party over, and this leaks into the mainstream media, and it's just my opinion is just absolutely stupid.
Well, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of comments. I'm not defending Antifa. I'm not defending people that are going out there, and I'm not saying that these movements are good. I'm not saying now they aren't. They're far from where they were. Antifa was good in concept, just like communism is good in concept, right? Like the ideal is positive, but Antifa's thing was anti-fascism, which was great. I mean, that's a great concept. How do we do that? Well, you don't do it by letting a bunch of people just do whatever they want. That's how you don't do it. Because like humanity has shown, at least in the past fucking 8 months, that we cannot be left to our own devices, because if we do that, all shit just goes to the fucking wind. Everything just goes crazy. So there has to be some direction. There has to be an end goal. What was Antifa's end goal? I don't know. I don't think they know.
I don't know as well. If anyone could add that'd be great. Because again, we're a bunch of individuals that obviously care about this type of stuff, and we would like to know.
Like I'm pretty sure you ask 10 different people who identify with Antifa, and they'll give you 10 different answers.
I was going to say 12 different answers.
So like I mean, like I know part of it's, well, we're against the anti-fascists, we're against the people that are taking away people's rights, we're against Republicans, we're against this. It's like, but hold on a second, there's plenty of Democrat fascists, there's plenty of like liberal fascists. Like most of what Antifa is doing right now could be considered fascism. Oh yeah, like that's a problem.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Definitely. And like when you get into the situation where you're hug boxing, and Gelf Walker says, I don't even know what Antifa stands for. I don't think they do, honestly.
I think some do, but majority do not.
But when you get into a situation where you're ignoring your detractors, right? This is a big issue. When you're ignoring people that are bringing up valid concerns, and you're only listening to the feedback loop of people that are supporting you, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to catch criticism because, with you people with your convention, you weren't taking criticism. No, we were taking criticism. We do take criticism. We take criticism from people that are actually there, from people that actually show up, from people that actually spend money, from people that actually are involved in the community. We do not take criticism from people who are actively trying to troll. We don't take criticism from people who are actively trying to work against us because X, Y, or Z reason. They might be working for a rival convention. They might be doing this or that. There's a difference. There's a difference between shutting out all criticism and shutting out valid criticism. And you have to listen to valid criticism because you always need to improve.
Constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism. Yep. And like this is one thing that I will give props to Ron Toya for. Not many things. I will give him props to coming onto a show that he knows is adversarial against him and being open to listening to criticism.
Yeah.
At least he did that. And all this other shit
that needs to be commended.
Everything else that he's done, terrible stuff, whatever have you. But the fact of the matter is like that should be a lesson to people of how to approach situations, not go protected on Twitter, not cut yourself off from society and only listen to people that agree with you, because that is self-destructive.
Yeah.
That can only lead to destruction. Look at Antifa, look at Me Too for great examples. These are basically movements now where the people that started it, the people that supported it, have moved away from it because it's light years away from where they were.
Yep. Yep.
I can point out, and I'm going to get some criticism for this. Look at the hashtag I stand with Vic. Look at the hashtag kick Vic, because they're both guilty of the same damn thing. I'm not saying everyone involved in them is. I'm saying the people who have latched on and perverted what they stood for. the people who are on the extremes, who are using tactics that are not necessarily positive tactics. The people, for example, the people on the I Stand with Vic side that are ignoring Vic, that are ignoring his wishes, that are not treating people with kindness and respect because they're fed up or whatever else, and they're using the hashtag I Stand with Vic to go after and attack people. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That's pushed out a lot of people who were supportive of Vic, and a lot of people who were honest to goodness good for Vic. It's pushed people out of the I Stand with Vic movement. Has it pushed them out of supporting him? No, absolutely not. Like, I still support Vic, 100%. Look at the hashtag Kick Vic movement. They, right from the start, was like doing a lot of underhanded, nasty stuff, but there was no end game. The end game was that they just didn't want Vic to exist anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say to cancel Vic, right?
Yeah, but where do you stop with that? Do you stop? Like, he lost jobs, he lost opportunities. Is that enough?
Well,
where does it end?
That's a movement that has absolutely no idea what they want, unless of course their end goal is for Vic to eat a fucking bullet. And the funny thing is, a lot of people would not come on set and go, "Oh, well, we didn't mean the things to go this far. We were taking this as a joke, man. You know, we didn't mean this and mean that." But then all of a sudden, pressure starts kicking in, stress starts kicking in.
Here's the thing.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna talk to the audience here for a minute.
Right.
People out there that are listening to this that need to hear this. Here's the thing. It does not matter one fucking lick of difference how much you want it to go, how far you think it's going to go, because it's not in your control. It's a fucking movement. When you start the ball rolling, you're going to get people out there that they don't care about this person. They don't care about you. They don't care about what you want. They want to see the world burn. We're seeing it right now in the United States. There's a bunch of people out there that are latching on to Antifa, that are latching on to Black Lives Matter, that are latching on all these stupid movements, and they're doing it for selfish reasons. So they can get, so for what? They can get a big screen TV.
Mm-hmm.
So they can go out and they can like burn down a fucking Arby's. Why? Why are they destroying jobs? Why are they destroying communities? Most of these people out of state, the police are finding out. Why are they doing it? They're not doing it for you. They're not doing it because they're supporting your movement. They're doing it because they want to wreak havoc and chaos. That's why they're doing it. So think twice before you start up a movement. Think twice before you start trying to destroy people, because you're going to have people out there that take it way too far, and you're going to get blamed for it.
Yeah, and hopefully never comes back to wash upon your shores afterwards.
It always does.
Yep.
It always does. And we've seen it. We've seen it happen. Like, oh, I didn't know it would go that far. Bullshit.
Yeah. Well, it's just a joke, man. You know.
Yeah. Bullshit. If you are that irresponsible that you do not plan for the worst possible scenario of you starting something, then you shouldn't be fucking doing it.
And on top of that, you ever heard these people ever walking things back when they hit a certain point? Of course not. You ever heard these individuals saying, okay, when does the healing begin? Where does the actual our goals to be met so we can move on to something else? Like, goodness gracious, even with yours truly, I still have detractors after 5 years still coming after me on every aspect. And the thing is, that's completely asinine, because again, I'm not a monster. I'm doing everything I can to bring positivity to my community and everything else in between. But again, these people are going on and on and on and on. And as long as things keep going on, the more idiotic and asinine they are.
Here's a big part that people fail to understand when they're doing these stupid movements. It's, what do you create?
Yeah.
What have you created? What are you attacking? So if you're attacking someone that has built up a community or built this or whatever else, blah, 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 blah. If you're attacking people that are creating things and you aren't doing anything except tearing down, you know what is a better spending of your time, a better expulsion of your energy? Why don't you create something yourself?
Yep.
Why don't you make something yourself? Why don't you make something to rival the thing that you don't like?
Pretty much.
Instead of destroying and tearing down and ripping down something, why don't you go out and replace it? Why don't you go out and push the boundaries, make them do better?
Put your money where your mouth is. Put positive energy in versus negative energy.
Exactly.
It's eye opening. I'm basically back in my LARP days. I always encourage individuals to start their own live action role playing game if they didn't like what I was running. And the thing is, you know what? People did. Kudos to them, and they found out exactly how tough it was. And the funniest thing that people don't remember or realize at that point in time, I actually helped them promote their game or their events or the case may be, because before even I met you, Crumb, I found it a long time ago. It's a lot easier to work with people and bring everyone up than it is to push people down. And the thing is that what I was more focusing on was making, I wouldn't say a superior product or anything else like that. It was just doing what I wanted to do because I really enjoyed doing it. That's it.
Yeah. And honestly, if you want change, if you want something to actually change, if you want something to actually be better, it's not going to be easy.
No.
It's not going to be easy. It's super easy to go out there and say something stupid and do something stupid and destroy something.
Yeah.
But that doesn't do anything. What does it do? You know, it gets, like, for everything that you go out there and destroy, for example, 10 people will hate you for it, and that's 10 people against your cause.
Yeah.
So if you want to go the easy route and you want to drum up support for somebody else, by all means. I'm not here to tell you. But if you want to go out there and you want to create and do the hard work to create something, it might not be successful, it might not be as great or whatever else, but that is a bigger statement than going out and destroying something.
Yeah, it's also a lot harder to do too.
It's a lot harder to do, absolutely.
Yeah. And there's some people out there who are very, very lazy in the decisions they've made, because it's just easy to type in, 140 characters into a social platform device. And isn't it weird? Those platforms are now becoming this certain type of scrutiny, and basically people who are involved in the tech industry are predicting that these particular platforms won't be around for the next 5 years. So I got to ask those people who've been on those platforms for the last 10 to 13 years, how does it feel to have your work to be burnt off the internet when these platforms finally come up to their end days of things? Wouldn't it be a lot easier for you to create your own thing from scratch and move forward with it versus lending your power to something that's A, possibly negative, and B, given to somebody else? Interesting to put in that perspective.
Yeah, and as this guy says, very true here. Some just have pathetic lives. They only get enjoyment of tearing others down. Absolutely.
Yep, it's exactly what Mr. Toy was talking about. Like, the thing is that he was saying he was getting a dopamine hit every time he went online, every time he thought he was defending something, every time he thought he was right. And the thing, one of the few things I got to tip my hat off to Mr. Toy once again is that he even admits, well, maybe some of the stuff I did wasn't probably the best. It's probably
so. Yeah. Here's something that I have to say, because this shit that we're seeing now is very akin to drug use. Very, very close to drug use.
Yep.
You can continue destroying and tearing down and everything else like that, and you might get a tiny hit of enjoyment out of tearing other people down. You will get a lifetime of enjoyment out of creating something for yourself and seeing that grow.
And it'll go a lot further as well.
And it will go a lot further. I can say this because, like, I understand why people get into teaching. I understand why people get into management. I personally love, like, training people. I love teaching people. I love managing people.
Yeah.
Not because of the power that it grants me. I enjoy it because I know, and parents out there can see this too, because parents have it on a more personal level. And, like, for myself, I don't want kids. Just for a number of reasons, but I don't want kids.
We always buy them.
The fact of the matter is, as a teacher, as a manager, as a supervisor, you have the unique opportunity to shape people's lives. You have a direct line to make a person's day good or bad every single day of your life,
and bring some positivity to it.
And you can affect some change in that person's life, because honestly, teachers, managers, supervisors, you're going to see these people more than their parents do. So at the end of the day, it's good managers and bad managers can affect people. Absolutely. Because if you have a shitty manager, you're like, I fucking hate that person. I'm never going to be like that person. That can motivate you to either get a new job. That can motivate you to move departments. That can motivate you to get to take their job over. If you're a good manager, you can set that person right for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. Because I can tell you right now, when one of my first jobs was a video store. And it was like a mom and pop video shop. And the owners didn't have kids. They didn't want kids. Because they always said, they always joked and said, oh, the people that we employ at our store, they're basically our kids. So that manager shaped how I lived the rest of my life. Because of how frank and how open and how basically how much of a father figure he was. So I took that very, very seriously when I went into management, and I employed that approach. And I can tell you right now, I don't know how many people I've had effects on over the years, but I know a few. And I know a few of them are going into jobs like government and stuff like that, and they were, and this is not to pat myself on the back, they were positively affected by the way that I approached them. So that being said, if you choose to have kids, you can have a direct result or a direct influence over them. If you choose to be a teacher, if you choose to be in management, if you choose to be in supervisor, you can have a direct influence over a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. But the bottom line is you need to choose. You need to be consciously aware of what you're teaching, mm-hmm. and what type of change you're affecting. Mm-hmm. And so when you look at these movements, you see a bunch of people taking over somebody else's hard work. Yep. And you see them driving down, and you see them influencing a bunch of different people. And that's one thing that I will say has changed. Before, we had spokespeople or whatever else. Now the term is internet influencer.
Internet influencer. Okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It really, really is.
Where you can have somebody who
could be hired,
doesn't necessarily have merit.
Yeah.
They could, just whatever else. Have a good night in a disguise. Have a good dinner. You can have people out there who are literally bought and sold by companies, by political groups.
Yep.
To go and persuade people or masquerade as people. It's very easy for someone to toss on a blue wig and go on social media and pretend to be part of a movement. You know how fucking easy that is?
Oh, it's very easy. A lot of people don't even know that. That's even the funnier part too.
Because no one looks.
That's right. They accept what they get for face value through 140 characters.
Exactly. Because let me just use this as an example. If someone could be your friend for 20 plus years, mm-hmm. in person, you go out and have drinks with them, you laugh with them, whatever else. They could be friends with you for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And they could turn around tomorrow and say that you did something heinous to them without bucking hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is stopping a complete fucking stranger from joining a random group, pretending to be part of that group, getting to be influential in that group, and then turning it around?
Or flipping it from the inside out.
Exactly.
And basically changing the group direction in such a certain way, it's no longer recognizable anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. It just takes patience.
It also doesn't take much either.
You sow the seeds of doubt. So basically you get in there. Say someone that's running the movement, right? Mm-hmm. They're good at it, and they're positive and whatever else. You get someone in there that doesn't like them, or that they want to take over. So they start sowing seeds of doubt. They start using their privileges to do this, that, and other thing, and they get the person kicked out, and then they take over.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the movement takes a sharp left.
Yep. It's no longer the same Kentucky Fried recipe that it used to be.
No.
It's changed. It's not quite the same. It doesn't have the same spring in its step anymore. It doesn't have the same type of flavor.
Yeah. Or, yeah, as Garth Walker says, I can crap on faster and harder. Absolutely. So, like, let me say this. And this is a criticism, fairly or not, I don't really care. This is a criticism of Black Lives Matter. All right? I will say this, and y'all out there better take this the right fucking way, because I don't mean it the bad way. What was the first thing that Reverend Al Sharpton did when he heard about these riots?
Which riots?
The riots in Minnesota.
I've got no idea.
First thing that I saw, and someone out there correct me if I'm wrong, first thing that I saw is he tweeted that he's getting on a plane going to Minnesota.
All right.
Now, looking at the Reverend Al Sharpton and his history, everybody in the fucking world knows what he's going there to do. Right? He could do the same thing. Like, he could have said literally anything. You know, anything at all. But everyone knows what he's going there for. So, please tell me that this was not used. Somebody out there, please tell me that this was not used to leverage a situation. To take leverage and put power and grab power on a situation. Yeah. Instead of taking it from what it should have been, like many people are saying, you know, this was a great opportunity because universally everyone was pissed off at the police. Everybody. Mm-hmm. They were pissed off that the police were brutal to somebody, and that was a universal thing. White, black, Hispanic, everyone hated it. Now, how many times has the name of the victim been brought up?
It really depends on, well, how often do you think it has been brought up? Do you think it's been brought up enough or not enough?
I don't think it's been talked about.
Okay.
Since the riots. Since the shit happened, it was talked about a lot. People cared. But ever since people started looting and rioting and everything else, his name hasn't been fucking talked about. Because it's not about that to these individuals. And I say these individuals because they're not just black people that are doing it. They're white people. There are plenty of people that are involved in this that have no stake whatsoever. They just want to go out there. And you have people on one side that want to destroy the Black Lives Matter movement by going and doing these riots while participating under the guise of Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. You have people that are part of Antifa that are trying to, you know, leverage that situation for their gain. You have people everywhere else. Everybody is forgetting what the fucking point of that entire thing was.
Very true. And also on top of that, a lot of the narrative has also changed. It went from the police getting involved in a certain situation where someone died during an arrest, and it changed into, oh, look, a McDonald's is being burnt down the ground. Hey, look, a gas station is being burnt to the ground. All these corporate stores that have absolutely no real affiliation to the unfortunate tragedy take place are being burnt down to the ground. Giant TVs are being looted from different Walmarts. Targeted stores are being hit hard by individuals who are jacking cash registers with hammers and stuff like that. And the narrative has completely changed to what it used to be to what it is now. And on top of that, National Guard's being called in and everything else like that. That's taking away from the real the situation that took place.
And you're getting it more and more muddied as you go along. Yeah. You have people on the fucking Republican side of the fence pointing fingers at the Democrats. You have people on the Democrat side of the fence pointing fingers at Trump. Like, all of this for what? For fucking power?
Well, that's the big $5 question, isn't it? For what? why is this taking place? What is really happening behind the scenes here?
You take a snapshot of Twitter, like you take a fucking petri dish of tweets, and you're gonna find all sorts of different shit. There was one person who had the fucking gall to go on and say and quote George's fiance, now I guess widow. I don't even know if you can consider her a widow. Quote her and say like and his fiance is saying that she wants everybody to forgive the police officers. There's no point in harboring hate and resentment and blah 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 in his memory, which is true. There's no point in making this memory, making the last memory of George a fucking nightmare.
Yeah. Or even a hell on earth, for goodness sakes. Even
use it as a point of rally. Use it as a point where you can say and look back in history and say, this man, what he went through changed things for the better. No, this woman that quoted the fiance fucking goes out and says, oh yeah, before you ask, yes, she is. Insinuating that she's a white woman. And then going on to say that, oh, they might like you, they might have your children, they might marry you, they might even love you. But they're not going to stand up for you. What kind of a fucking statement is that?
Pretty shitty one, to say the least.
Like that shit drives me off a fucking cliff. Because no matter what anyone does in this situation, they're going to be wrong. If he didn't die, they would be wrong. He did die, they're wrong. She says, she calls to action, she's wrong. She tells people to stand down, she's wrong.
Yeah.
These people who don't have anything to do in his fucking life, they don't even know him. They're assuming, because they share a race, that they know him. I don't know a fucking boo about him. But one thing I do know is I'm pretty sure nobody at all wants to be known for causing a fucking mass-ass riot that does nothing but tear things down and destroy businesses, destroy people's livelihoods.
Yeah. And also on top of that, the timing of this is also suspect as well. Like, why is this happening now? Is this a precursor due to the pandemic we just went through? Are people blowing off steam because of this, that, and other thing? Like, this escalated, in my opinion, really, really quickly. Hugely quickly.
It did.
Memphis doesn't have the best track record for arrests as well. But, however, just the timing of all this.
I mean, in my opinion, it was fueled by a bunch of different groups that were looking to get something out of it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really unfortunate for George and his memory and his family.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair at all.
I don't think it's fair either.
And this is the dark side of what hashtag movements can be.
Yeah.
Because people lose the plot about the entire thing, and they don't understand what it's like to be in the middle of a fucking hardship. Like there was a shooting here. I don't know, within the past year or two, of a young kid. It was a young black kid. It was just shot in the middle of the fucking day by somebody from Toronto. I don't know. They took off in a fucking Mercedes and they couldn't find them.
Yeah.
The first narrative about this was how the kid was troubled, how he was this and that. He's a fucking kid.
Yep.
Like, who the fuck cares about your stupid narrative about gun control in Canada and this and that and the other thing? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, a fucking kid just got shot.
Yep.
Like, and the aftermath of that is now you have a family that lost a fucking son. You have a family that lost a brother.
Yep. A member of the community that could never be brought back. It's gone.
And, like, that shit is a stain for a long time. Like, that stuff, it hangs around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And, like, you see this violence, like, all the time. And you see, like, these people that are just waiting around the corner. Just waiting with a fucking hashtag in hand, waiting.
Yeah.
To fucking take advantage of it.
And they got to ask them, what are these people doing better to their communities and stuff like that?
They don't do anything.
I was going to say, not to borrow an idiom, but to make sure that stuff like that never happens again. Isn't it amazing that people jump in when things are really hot, then all of a sudden things kind of cool off, they're not to be seen until the next major thing pops up.
Well, here's a really interesting thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use this as an example because it's not racial. It's not anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an unfortunate situation.
Yeah.
So back in the day, I lost mostly everything of mine to a house fire. When I lived in my previous city, everybody came out in droves to support us for the first 2 weeks. You know, donations, offering places to stay, offering this and that, whatever else. Tons and tons and tons of people came out the first 2 weeks. You know what happened after that? Nothing. Wow. Nothing at all. We had people upset that we were still looking for help. We were a bother to them. That was a huge turning point in my life, and that was early on in my life. That was a huge turning point in my life to figure out, like, people don't actually fucking care. They're really, really good at pretending they care, but they don't care. Because, like, that stuff, you can't just recover in 2 weeks from losing literally everything you've ever owned.
Yeah.
Like, you can't like find a new place to live. You can't buy an entire wardrobe. You can't like buy furniture. You can't do all this stuff in 2 fucking weeks, especially when you don't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And people expect you to just bounce back from it automatically. And it's a burden to support you.
Yeah.
Now that's just belongings. That's not even losing a fucking person. I can't imagine losing someone to a fucking gunshot or gun violence. I can't imagine like losing someone if they got fucking killed in a fucking burning building. And then I have people like support me for a day or two with a goddamn hashtag. And then when it comes down to it's like, well, how am I going to feed my family?
Yeah. Tough. Very, very tough.
It's really rough. It's shit like that fires me up.
My goodness.
You know, it's that's why I find like these hashtag movements they're mostly garbage.
Yeah.
They're mostly garbage now because when you look at stuff, look at how far people have perverted the I Stand With Vic hashtag, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Look at how many people that had tried so damn hard to build channels, to build clout, to build everything.
And meanwhile, they don't even have a full idea of what's going on. They're accepting everything for face value, and that's it. Maybe there's a difference between a hashtag and a movement, because at least with a movement, you got structure most of the time of what's happening and stuff like that. But a hashtag, you get a bunch of yahoos that jump in, basically eat all the food, drink all the drink, poop on the corner, and say, well, this has been fun. See ya.
Exactly. And so, like, there is no end game for most of these. That's the difference from what happened before to what happens now.
Yeah.
It almost becomes like an institution at that point. It's just like, well, we've got a following now. We have to find a way to make money off of it.
Yeah.
We have to find a way to get power with it.
Yeah. Sell some useless merchandise. Make sure that our agenda is being followed. And that's basically about it.
Yeah, it's really concerning because that's what it seems like the quote unquote movements are like nowadays. Is like they start out very good.
I'm gonna say very righteous.
Very righteous.
And they deteriorate into feces matter fairly quickly. Almost 2 weeks to be exact.
Well, it's not something that's unique. I mean, Andrew Morrison saying very much so. If I want to help someone out, I help with cash, goods or time, not virtue signaling with the hashtag. Exactly. So this is something, again, hearkening back to my days at the video store. This is something that's not new. This is something that was actually relegated mostly to people who were like stuck on drugs and things like that.
Yeah.
So as an example, one night, I was heading home from work,
mm-hmm.
and there was a person outside was asking for change, like, please, please, I need money for food. And I said, well, I'm not going to give you money. I'll go and I'll buy you some food. He's like, no, 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 I need the money. I need the money. I'm like, but you're hungry. I'm going to go and buy you some food. He's like, no, 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 I want the money. He's not hungry, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like we had a woman that would be wandering outside asking money for diapers. And people would go and buy her diapers from the store, which was right next to the video store. They'd bring her the diapers. She'd go in and return them and get the money. This tactic has existed for people who were addicted to something.
Yeah.
And this is the degree of what people go to get what they want.
Yeah.
And Randy Schreibner Jr. I've had a homeless man throw a sandwich back in my face. Yeah, that should happen.
Yep. When I was living in Toronto, I used to give change to the corner people just because I had a little bit of extra cash, no big deal type of thing. Things were good. And I had the homeless people throw the change back at me because it wasn't enough. And I went, oh, that's lovely. And of course, I caught what was it, Spike TV from back in the day. And they were talking about how homeless people were collecting thousands and thousands of dollars per day, depending on their scam and so forth. I'm going,
and then getting into their fucking Mercedes at the end of the day.
Driving off. Yep, yeah. Exactly. Plus, on top of that, there was something was happening in our neck of the woods here in the region. There was this little lady that I called her the ghoul, the ghoul of the region. And basically, she was hunchback and her hair's down her face. She's going, sir, can you please help me, sir? Sir, can you please help me? And of course, me being who I am, being an ex-resident of Toronto, I stay away from that type of stuff because I kind of know where it's going to lead. And the thing is that the next thing you know, the little lady's asking them for money because she's hungry or she lost her purse or something else like that. And just what you said before, the person goes, you know what, I'll buy you something. No problem. She goes, no. Just give me the money type of thing. And the funny thing is that I've seen this because, of course, I'm stepping back and looking at all this back when the eyes were a little bit better. And she basically zips around the corner. 5 minutes later, she comes back again, does the exact same thing. I sat there for 45 minutes and I watched this scam artist do this thing over and over and over again. And it was sad because sometimes there are some legit people out there that are down their luck. Things do happen, and they're just trying to push their way forward, and they exhausted every other avenue to try to get themselves up by the bootstraps as they're tightening their belt to move forward with things. And sometimes they look at panhandling on the hopes of getting that little bit of extra change or whatever they need to move forward with things, so forth and so forth. But at the same time, there's a lot of people out there that take full advantage of that type of stuff, and they're not being honest with it. They're basically being negative, and they're coming back to the well time and time and time and time again, especially when they don't need it.
Yeah, and have a good night. Gail Walker says going to bed there.
Night.
And James Andrew Morrison saying, I'm at a homeless man asked me for $2.99, and I asked what he wanted it for. He replied, a bottle of cider, so I gave it to him. At least he was honest. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and sometimes you come across individuals who are exactly like that. And that's always a good thing.
Blaze Firestorm says some people will be on a scooter and will ask for money and drive their scooter to a brand new car and drive away. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Like, again, some of the stuff that I've seen, all surface stuff, I mind you, has been absolutely disgusting because there are some people that do need help. There are some people that need that little extra push to get themselves forward. And the older I get, the harder I'm having it. Difficulties to distinguish between who really needs it and who is just taking advantage of it. That really, really sucks.
That's the tough part. But we're seeing it now. It's moved online.
Well, there's that as well.
It's who needs this help really, because these people don't exist.
Yep. It's also guarding your time as well, because one of the few things you could spend and never get back is time.
It's true.
So if you're going to defend a hashtag movement, really know where you get yourself involved with, do your research, and try to move forward as positive you can with things. The way I look at it, and if a movement or a hashtag starts going in the negative things, don't support it. Move on to something else.
Bottom line, hashtags should be something that are light, fun, fluff, tying a thing together. They should be, bottom line, they should be used to advertise.
Yeah.
That's it. Because that's what they are. They're advertising.
Yeah.
It's like,
all right.
I'm fine. It's one of those things. Like you see it all the time in newspapers, and this is something that like the Kick Vic side of thing did. You see it in newspapers where they publish something that's wrong, and it takes them a week to print a retraction, and the retraction's in the back of the paper in this tiny ass little 1x1 square. No one's gonna read.
Yep.
So the point of the matter is to get it out there and get it out, spread it fast. And I think that it's a dangerous thing to do with movements, because if you're not taking your time and you're not quality controlling, I'm not saying censorship, I'm saying quality control.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose control of that movement very, very quickly. And then the last taste in people's mouth of what that movement does is going to be on the first people that brought it forward.
Yep.
And do you think that many people are really happy with Alyssa Milano right now?
Exactly.
And the whole Me Too movement, people aren't going to forget that historically.
Yep. And it's online.
It's true.
Be there for a very, very long time until someone does a Google search or use their favorite internet search engine.
Well, it's there forever. You can't get rid of it after that point. I mean, like, how many people are going to be forgiving Mars Girl, for example, for the hashtag kickback?
Yep.
How many people, right?
Nope.
Not many people.
Nope.
That's going to be something that's going to be following her for a long time.
And especially if things don't go according to plan.
Yeah.
It's weird how things change. And the mixture between online battering and real court cases and charges and stuff like that.
Well, and let's take a look at it real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What did it gain her?
Well, that's the thing. What did it gain her? In the beginning, it gained her a little bit of clout, some head pats, and going, "Oh, you're doing great. Yeah, let's go get Vic." All right, how? What do you mean get Vic? Well, let's try to get Vic so depressed he puts a bullet in his head. Yeah, let's do that. Makes sense.
But at the end of the day, it didn't achieve what she wanted it to. I guess I don't know.
Well,
like it didn't stop Vic from having a career. It lessened his career, sure, to a point. I mean, like,
closed certain doors and opened up certain doors, we could say.
Yeah, but did it increase her following? Did it bring more attention to her channel? Apparently not, because she's still broke.
Well, I think that it brought her some attention in the very beginning. The question is what type of attention and how's that attention changed until today? Because basically what it came down to it, what the whole Kick Vic movement was, and please, dear Crumb, correct me if I'm wrong, was to delete Vic from everything. And if Vic took his life from the process, all the much better, because, online is just online. It's not real. So, it's only just jokes, yo. So basically when it came down to it, Vic's still working. Vic's still moving forward with things. Vic is still communicating with his fans. Vic is still going around the world talking about positivity and stuff like that. It almost changed. Well, not almost. It has changed Vic becoming a more positive individual versus a prima donna Hollywood type. And I think that's very positive moving forward. So again, getting back to Mars Girl, what was your plan? To cancel Vic?
I don't think there was a plan.
Isn't that kind of funny? There was definitely something floating around, but long story short, the plan changed, the plan's mutating, and it's just not what I originally thought it was.
And that's what I mean. It's like when you're putting together a movement, there has to be some degree of responsibility. This goes for anybody out there that wants to start up anything at all. Like, The I Stand With Vic was obviously a counter movement to the Kick Vic.
Yeah.
Obviously. So the end goal of the I Stand With Vic would be to stop Kick Vic, or at least get Vic back to conventions, which happened.
Yeah.
It got him. It saved him from a funeral. It got him back to a point of reputability, and it fought back against a lot of the shit that was going after whatever else. In my opinion, it's probably it's probably chilled. It should be chilled at this point, because the Kick Vic side of things shouldn't be going on at all anymore.
Yeah.
Because their end goal failed miserably, and they got a pound of flesh out of it, absolutely. So they should cut their losses and walk away from it.
That would, I would say that's what normal, sensitive people would do. But if you're all obsessive, like, how's that going to work? Because if your whole day was waking up, going to Vic's Twitter or his TikTok account, seeing what he's posting, and start ripping that apart, and also that's not there anymore, what do you do with yourself if you're all compulsive type of thing? Interesting question.
Well, and like James N.G. Morrison saying, indeed, I watched Full Metal Alchemist and I had no idea who Vic was, and I Stand With Vic promoted Vic to show him he wasn't alone. Absolutely. Blaze Firestorm said it made Vic more popular, and yeah, it made, in many ways, boosted Vic as many never heard of him. I mean, I think that's evident in the fact that he only had like less than 100,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah.
Like, here's the thing, and this is not a knock on Vic.
Yeah.
Right? This is not a knock on Vic at all.
Yeah.
When you're voicing a cartoon and nobody sees your face, they just hear your voice.
Voice acting.
Most people, I'd say like 90% of people, they won't go and look for the voice actor's name.
Unless they're fans and they know
unless they're big fans.
Unless so, like, the person's talent behind it.
Case in point. All right. When I grew up, I grew up watching all of the 90s cartoons, all the 80s cartoons, things like that. I literally had no fucking clue who Scott McNeil was until someone told me. And this was like on the tail end of like, this was like Con G. So like, I guess 2006.
Yep.
I didn't know until 2006 who Scott McNeil was. I didn't realize that he voiced literally every fucking character of every cartoon that I've ever listened to.
And you really enjoyed, right?
And that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So that's not a slight on Scott McNeil. That's just because my fucking dumbass never went and looked up the credits. Yeah. So, yeah, it turns out that I've heard Vic voice act in a lot of different things. I did not know who he was until things came to the forefront.
Yeah.
And I learned about all of the stuff that he did. Because I never got to a convention to meet Vic.
Yeah.
Before Kitchener Comic-Con.
Yeah.
So, like, that's not a knock against him. But I do think that all the stuff that's come out and all the stuff that's been talked about has definitely, it's reinforced people that didn't like him before.
Yeah.
But it has also brought in a whole swath of people who had never heard of him or who have like might have heard of him in passing, and it brought more supporters on board with him.
Yeah. The voice acting entertainment industry in general is really, really, really tough. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
And people don't realize when you develop a 20-year career in one aspect of the entertainment industry, that's amazing into itself, and it should be awarded and celebrated. And a lot of people just don't get the hard times that are coming. And the thing is, if we have people tearing themselves down with hashtag movements and stuff like that, no one gets elevated. Everyone keeps getting pushed down. And who really wins after that? It's like, oh, look, the person we went after once again swallowed a bullet. Awesome. What do we do now? Oh, I don't know.
Well, like look at what happened with that one game designer.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes. Among other artists that are in the community.
I mean, like, indie game designer gets literally put in a grave by somebody because of allegations that he can't prove or disprove.
Yeah. There's also a comic book illustrator that decided to leave this mortal coil. And the person who was harassing this individual for months and months and months and months got hired by Marvel.
Yep.
thus leaving me in kind of a predicament, such as, do I support Marvel's content moving forward? Do I support their brand, especially with their hiring practices and stuff like that? Like, just craziness the times we're living in now.
Well, speaking of support, I think now is a good time to bring this up again.
All right. Oh,
the Canuckleheads official merchandise. If you want to support, I mean, to be honest, to be honest, this doesn't really pay me anything at all. Like, I maybe make like 10 cents off a shirt, but I want you guys to enjoy the merchandise. I want you guys to wear it. I want you guys to share it around and get people noticed to the broadcasts, and keep you warm at night with this nice, beautiful blanket.
It's so fluffy.
This blanket, I cannot wait for this blanket to come in. It's probably coming in this week.
That's cool.
So the shirt should be coming in this week too.
I will steal it.
And we got the stickers as well. So like, yeah, bring it around. You can also join the Canuckleheads Patreon.
We have a Patreon? That's amazing.
Yes, we do. The link is in the description below. It gets you access to our Discord, gets you access to our shows. Sometimes we're going to have exclusive shows that are only for Patreons. And sometimes you get exclusive access to those. So,
and it's going to be lots and lots of
check out.
It's going to look like a pajama party.
Yeah.
Pizza, soda pop, maybe some whiskey. It'd be absolutely fantastic.
So like $3. $3 is the bare minimum to get in. $5 if you want to get in the Discord, but $3 gets you access to any of the videos and anything exclusive like that. And then
that's cheaper than a cup.
There you go. Super duper cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, like Randy Schreibner is saying. Get this out of here real quick.
Boop.
Like Randy Schreibner Jr. is saying the female wrestler, the Japanese wrestler that was bullied off the internet committed suicide.
Goodness gracious, yes. I threw that around my own social media links, and the thing is that do you know the backstory behind that, Crumb?
I know she was a heel. That's about the extent.
Yes. Long story short, what happened was what kicked things off in this direction. She was part of a Big Brother television show in Japan or something along those lines, and supposedly her costume was washed with a male's costume, and it shrunk horribly, and she kind of freaked out, slapped them around a little bit, stuff like that type of thing. But however, this blew up online, and people went after her with a vengeance, and she just got so saddened and so depressed that she kind of canceled herself. And when I read that, I went, you have to be kidding me, because people go, oh, it's just online, just ignore it, it'll go away, don't pay any mind to it. Meanwhile, it was everywhere. And I don't know if she was a mother or not. I'm just going to double check that. But long story short, she got so depressed because there was no one she could turn to. That was it.
So, and this is one thing I'm gonna tell anybody out there who needs to hear it. These people on the internet that go off on you, right? You need to ask yourself one important question. Do you know these people? Do they matter to you? I guess it's two important questions.
Yeah.
Do you know them, and do they matter? Because if the answer is no to either of those questions, you shouldn't listen to it. You should mute it. You should block it. You should walk away from it. Because at the end of the day, you cannot tell who is on that computer, who's making that tweet, who's making that post. It could be the same person making 10 different posts on 10 different accounts. Yeah. We've seen it happen. We see it happen all the time.
And also something like to add as well is that there are helplines that are available if you really, really need to talk to someone. They're available 7/24 all the time. My ex worked for one of these nonprofit organizations, and some of the baggage she walked away with, it was heavy. But long story short, minus that last aspect of things, there are people who are willing to listen. And as we're coming out of this pandemic, there are mental health facilities that are available to help and work with things. And at the same time there, if this was an ex-friend of yours and they changed, you got to ask yourselves, were they being genuine? Are they being disingenuous with their friendship with you? Are they really your friend moving forward, especially if they're hurting you that badly? And if the answer is, yeah, they are, then were they really your friend in the first place?
That's really a big thing. It's one of those things. Someone could be your friend for 20 years, and they could come out tomorrow and make a heinous accusation about you.
Yeah.
It happens every fucking day.
Yep. We both went through stuff like that. It's not easy.
Many people have. Many people have.
Yep. As Earl Smith says, for everyone love letter written, there's another one that's burned. And the thing is that can be applied to a lot of things, unfortunately. But however, one of the few things I'd like to emphasize is that there are helplines out there. There are people willing to earnestly listen.
And like honestly, the other thing is no matter how alone you might feel.
Yeah, exactly.
There is always I guarantee you, there is always somebody out there that will miss you.
Yep.
They might not say it. And unfortunately, like, even though we're in an age of information and communication where at the touch of our fucking fingers, we could say stuff to people, we just don't.
Yep.
The fact of the matter is there will be people out there that miss you.
Yeah. And they care for you as well. Do not forget that. You're not alone on this rock that's spinning around this giant star that's going around the universe. You are not alone. You're among individuals who sincerely care and love you. And that's very, very important to remember. Things change. That's just part of life. But the thing is that always look on the positive aspect of things. That is hard, but that's also very important.
Well, look on the positive aspect, but also be realistic.
Yeah.
That's a key thing too. You have to be realistic about it. Like, obviously there's going to be people that don't like you. You're going to get into disagreements with people, things like that. That's fine. That's nature.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, have a plan. Have a game plan for stuff. Keep level-headed. Nothing is ever as bad as it seems, and it's never as good as it seems.
Yep, and also go at your own pace as well. Like the last thing you want to do is rush into something or basically find you're getting more frustrated with things. Just keep a steady pace, move forward, keep positive. That's important.
Because, like, honestly, your own worst enemy is your own mind when it comes down to that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of hashtag movements, though, knowing when to shut them down is a very important thing. Because if you don't, and I liken it to a Ouija board, right? Mm-hmm. And like I know there's a bunch of people that are like, oh my god, I didn't believe in any of that stuff.
Ouija boards.
No. To give people out there the premise of a Ouija board, yes, you are moving it. It is you moving it. It is somebody that is touching the peg that is moving it. Yes, that's the point. It's not some ghost or whatever else or spirit. No. Ouija boards are very, how do I put it?
Kinetic energy?
No. It's very basic forms of mediumship. So just going off on a tangent here for a second. Being a medium, you have to invite things into you to take control of you. Now, practice mediums are able to section off, and this is for people out there that believe it. I know there's plenty of skeptics that don't. This is not for you. So for mediums out there are plenty of people that invite spirits and invite things to come into them to either give messages or whatever else, blah, blah, blah. Practice mediums and expert mediums understand how to section off those things and push them out when they're done. Ouija boards, which is why they're so dangerous, is a very primal version of mediumship. What you're doing by putting your hands on the peg, everyone putting their thoughts and energy into it, and inviting things to come into you and move your hands to deliver a message, that's dangerous. Because on the off chance that you actually do get something to come through, you don't know how to push that out. That might stick with you, that might stick with something else. So that's why it's dangerous. But that's what I mean by closing things properly, because if you understand how to properly close a session like that, you're able to get rid of it, and no further harm can come from it. So from a hashtag movement perspective, it's almost like you're inviting all of these people in to contribute, and all of these people and all of their different energies to move the peg around on the board, right? If you do not close that hashtag properly, you're going to have all sorts of shit come through.
And it's online.
Yeah. Exactly. It's online. It's forever.
And the funny thing is sometimes hashtags don't disappear because they might be adopted by somebody else.
Well, and James Anderson and Andrew Morrison saying it's hard to take something seriously called Yes, Yes, and was designed to be a children's toy. That's the problem. It was not designed to be a children's toy.
Okay. Oh, you're talking about Ouija boards?
Ouija boards.
Okay, gotcha. Cool.
It was not designed to be a children's toy. I mean, eventually it was, yes. But mediumship was always a thing. And they just thought, well, this is just hokey nonsense. Haha. We'll just put it out there. No, the board itself does not matter. Like, forget about the board. You can literally carve fucking letters onto the floor and do it that way too. It will work, I promise you.
I'm going to do that.
Please don't.
Okay. Sorry.
The point is the action and the intent that you're putting into it. You're consciously inviting things to come into you, into your mind, to influence you to push the pegboard around. That is the action. It doesn't matter if you have like a cheap $3 fucking Ouija board or an expensive fucking $2,000 oak fucking Ouija board. That doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter how many candles you have lit up and everything else like that. That may help to get you into the mindset, but that does not matter. It's the conscious action of saying, come into me and deliver a message through me. That's the problem.
That can be a problem.
Oh my gosh.
Especially the entity's not paying rent on time.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Goodness gracious.
But a lot of it comes down to the human mind and stuff like that. And so, yeah, absolutely. I mean, anybody out there, plenty of skeptics out there that don't believe in that shit, whatever. That's fine. I've seen stuff firsthand. I've experienced stuff firsthand. I cannot download my experiences to you, so I don't expect you to believe me. But this is the premise behind what Ouija boards are, and I'm just trying to explain that for the greater masses. So, but yeah, and that's why I liken that to hashtag, because you need to like end the hashtag, or else you're just going to leave your door open and have a whole bunch of Lord knows what coming in your front fucking door. Next thing you know, you're going to have a fucking family of mice living in your basement.
We never had that happen.
Yeah, no, we took care of that.
Exactly.
We took care of it humanely.
Yes, yes, we did.
We relocated like 8 mice.
Yep, and they're happy little guys.
They're
living somewhere else.
Yes, they're living happily in another building right now. So
I would like to think it's a Secret of NIMH stuff, because that's always a good reference point to go back to. They're living somewhere else. They're living their happy little lives, gathering things, getting together, making little mice babies, stuff like that. Yeah, not at our house. Somewhere else.
Well, and there's another good segue. PETA, for example.
Oh, PETA.
PETA is an example of something that has gone on far too goddamn long.
Yeah.
And basically there are extreme factions of that. So you have the people who like animals, save the animals, vegetarian, vegans, and you have the people who will legitimately go out to stores and burn them down for selling fur products.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that the people on column A over here that just like animals are related to people that are going to go burn down a building, but that happens.
Yeah.
And that happens because there's no direction. Like, what's the end goal for PETA? To have the entire world not consume meat?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a viable option.
Yeah. Or basically let animals continue to live. They multiply quicker than humans and become overrun. That's
case in point of how ridiculous this can get. Okay. PETA and people from PETA were criticizing Animal Crossing.
Really? Over?
Because you were catching and trapping bugs and fish.
So we're looking at electronics bugs and fish versus real bugs and fish. I see.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't some people from the particular movement also had problems with the Mario franchise as well?
Yes, stomping on turtles and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And these are the same people that had no problems with Mortal Kombat. That's weird. That's weird. Anyways, please continue.
That's what I mean. It's just like, what are they talking about? They don't have an end game. Like that's what I mean. It shows how disorganized that particular movement is. Because I mean, if like, and James Andrew Morrison Speedo wanted Assassin's Creed banned for hunting and whaling, I can't imagine.
Awesome.
I can't imagine.
So Peter tried to rewriting history at the same time here. That's interesting.
That's what I mean. It's like I understand we're at a point where we don't necessarily need to do this. Like we don't necessarily need to consume animals and stuff like that, but in the same respect, like how far are you going to go? Are you going to stop so we literally can't have farm games because animals are in them? Like come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I guess some people just got too much time on their hands.
Far too much.
And they start getting a little obsessive on what they're doing. Like, as an example, I guess everything on the planet can be looked at from both a positive and negative perspective. Because if you look at Sesame Street, why are animals living with humans? That makes no sense at all. Shouldn't animals have their own district and live on their own type of thing freely without restrictions from human society?
Well, animal lives matter.
Yeah, among other things. Yeah, among other things. So, basically, here's a good question for you, Crumb. What hashtag movements, in your opinion, have worked? If you could think of any, of course.
That's a very good question. I'm going to leave that one up to the chat and to the comments because I honestly can't think of one. I mean, like, so let me just section that into two parts.
Sure.
Plenty of hashtag movements have worked, and then they should have stopped, but they didn't, and then got bastardized into other things. Like I think hashtag Me Too worked when it first came out. Okay. I think hashtag Black Lives Matter worked.
Okay.
I think like hashtag Time's Up worked.
Okay.
When it first started. I don't think they continue to work. I think they broke after a while. But like, I just that's a really tough one because like you have to ask yourself like when did they jump the shark, so to speak?
And the thing is that if they don't work, why are people continuing to use them? Besides being
easy.
Well, I just came up with one in 8.3 seconds. Besides being a busybody and getting involved with something that some people have no idea what's going on with.
This is the problem, and this is a big problem that people need to understand. The people that are doing nasty things, whether they're on I Stand with Vic, whether they're on Kick Vic, whether they're on Black Lives Matter, whether they're on Me Too, the people that take those movements and twist them and use them for personal gain, they're a fucking problem. And they are not members of that hashtag movement. Be very clear. They do not represent those people.
Yeah.
Because that hashtag movement is its own thing. These people came in and infected it and took it over and twisted it.
Yeah.
That does not speak for the entire movement. Just the same as the actions of one black person, one Latino person, one white person, one Asian person. That does not speak the same for the entire race.
Yeah.
What we need to do is we need to take more personal responsibility. We need to hold people accountable. We need to hold individuals accountable.
And that's kind of tough when you're on an actual, what is it called again? Oh, goodness gracious. We're on a platform versus a publishing aspect.
Well, it's when you're looking at it, it's really tough when there's anonymity involved, right? When people are anonymous, it's really, really difficult to say that person needs to be held accountable.
Yeah.
What I think, personally, is I think that the people should self-police this. I'm not saying censor. I'm saying when the person next to you picks up a fucking baseball bat and smashes in a window, maybe you're like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
When the person next to you on Twitter or whatever else starts making it about race, or starts making it about politics, or starts making it about gender, Truman's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I do that all the time. Full disclosure, for people online that are trans, for people online that are part of the LGBT, when they start going off the goddamn rails and they start making a fucking non-issue into a gender or political issue, it's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you pulling that shoot? Like, why are you saying it's like, you know, don't buy this comic book, don't buy this video game because XYZ transgender issue? No.
Yeah.
Like, guarantee these people have never walked outside and been beaten because they're trans. Yeah. Guarantee these people have never gone to a job and been refused because they're trans. These people go online and get criticism because they're trans, and that's the worst that they get.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, as someone who has lived through it, there is much worse in the world than someone going online and saying that you look like a guy, you have a 5 o'clock shadow, wow, you sound like a man. I don't fucking care.
And should they care? No.
They shouldn't care.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, if we're talking about gender, if you're a trans man or a trans woman, you're born that way. Period. So it doesn't matter. That's your voice. That's a trans man or a trans woman's voice. That's your body. That's a trans man or a trans woman's body. We can't magically turn into different people. We don't have that technology. Right? We don't have the ability to get the magical girl fucking transformation bullshit yet. So at the end of the day, you have to work with what you got. You have to work with your canvas.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, like, as a trans person, I would love to be the fucking 5'2" hourglass figure. I'm 6 feet. I can lose all the goddamn weight that I wanted to. I can't lose inches. So at the end of the day, I have to say to myself, okay, well, what is flattering for my body type? I can grow my hair out. I can color my hair. I can do all that fun stuff. Great. Do I have curls? No. I have wavy hair. It's what it is. I can't shave my hair off and then fucking change it. I can do whatever else. I can do a lot of stuff to change, to manipulate it, but I can't permanently change it. It's the same thing with like weight loss. Like I can lose weight, sure, but I can't make certain things not be what they are. It's just the way it is. And so if someone out there is criticizing me, for example, say, well, you're not really a woman. Fuck off. Am I dating you? Or am I trying to interact with you in a way that, like, am I going to you and saying I want to have your children? No. So what does it fucking matter? That's what every trans person needs to ask themselves. What does it fucking matter what these people have an opinion of you? It's your fucking life.
I think that could be applied across the board.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the important aspect and everything else.
100%.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, these people aren't people you want to be associating with anyways.
Exactly. Who wants to be with people who's going to hold you back or tie you down or tell you can't do something?
I don't know. I need to get somebody on, like if we had Drexel on or somebody else, for example. Mm-hmm. I want to ask them, or I want to ask someone of color, do you really want to associate with a group of people who are bigoted fucking assholes?
Yeah. Why would you?
And if you don't, then why do you care what their opinion is?
Pretty much.
Because they're not stopping you from hanging out with your friends and people who actually give a shit about you. And if they are stopping you from doing that, that's a fucking criminal offense.
And on top of that, in addition to all of that, you could ask yourselves, are these people being positive or negative? Why would we be with somebody who is being negative? The answer is you shouldn't be.
Well, I've had plenty of people in my life that um, have been part of the LGBT movement,
mm-hmm.
and plenty of people that have been on my side as a trans person, and they keep telling me, like, well, why do you like this person? Why do you follow that person? You're not a very good trans if you do that. You're like, why don't you support the community? Uh, because the community doesn't fucking support me. First of all, I am not the community. I am my own person.
Yeah.
Like, I do not need to be dictated to follow this person because they're trans.
Well,
follow that person because they're gay. Like,
is there a test every week you need to fill out? And if you don't get 50%, you lose your card.
Seriously. It's like, oh no, I'm not following all these people, so I guess I'm not trans anymore. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
sounds gatekeeping.
It is very gatekeepy.
Yep.
But that's what it is. It's like, you got to look at these situations, and I can only speak to the ones that I'm in. I'm not going to speak to like people of color and stuff like that. I'm not even going to speak to being Native, because like I am Native. I'm part Irish, part Native. Métis. I'm not going to speak to being Native because I didn't grow up in that. I didn't get persecuted because of my Native roots. I didn't grow up on a reserve. I didn't get attacked or called drunk or whatever else because of that. So I'm not going to talk about that because I never. That's not my plight. I grew up. I grew up in a bunch of different shit, but none of that. So I'm not going to sit here and try to adopt and say, oh, like, I got to fight for the native, blah blah blah. No.
Yeah.
And I think other people need to shake their head as well and say, like, we're very fucking fortunate to be living where we are, where we can literally go out and protest, and we can voice our opinions. We can write our fucking slogans on signs and march down public streets and stop traffic without getting shot. Without having we can have a dissenting opinion about our governments without being killed for it.
Basically expressing our Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
And like we can literally, we have an internet where we can go on and look at whatever we want without it having fucking government stepping in and cutting off what we're able to access.
Yeah.
I think people really, really tend to forget the freedoms that we have, and they focus on the oppression that they still have. And that's a fucking terrible thing. Because we have gone so far in 50 years from where we were to the freedoms we have now. And we are so disrespectful and so unappreciative of the shit that we have now, where we're literally fucking shooting people and like tearing people down online using a fucking hashtag.
Yeah.
For what?
And if you want to go back even further, let's look at the last 80 years, for goodness sakes, especially where we have come from individuals and society and so forth. Like, if people saw the stuff that's happening today back in the, let's say, 20s or the 30s from back in the day, it would be completely alien to what we have right now. Like, my personal opinion, I think we live in soft life times. And the thing is that it's getting harder and harder because I really think I personally think that there's a disconnect taking place. Because again, one of the things that drives me nuts is that individuals who will come up to you and talk to you and then jump online behind their keyboard and go, oh, did you hear what this person said? No, and get all soap boxy, if you know what I mean. Like, basically get involved with drama and stuff like that. And when you go from face to face and you approach them and say, hey, what the fuck is this? We talked about this. And when we from our conversation, we came up with this conclusion. What the fuck is this all about? I think that is very interesting, because one of the things I always ask myself is that, again, if my parents at the age of 40 did what they did, what type of people will they be? It's interesting when you start thinking about it.
It was a different time.
Yeah.
It was much more
a different
curtailed, much more curtailed on communication. did not have access to information that unprecedented amount of access to information.
Yeah, there's that.
So just as an example, over the past 3 days,
mm-hmm.
all of this shit that has been flooding the internet and Twitter and everything else about these riots.
Yeah.
I've been talking to people who live in these cities.
Yeah.
And who are saying it's not nearly as bad as people make it out to be. Like, yes, there are buildings burning. Yes, there are people being idiots. Yes, there's this and that. But aside from the media blowing it up, you have people on social media who are using this as an opportunity to blow it out of proportion and whatever else. You have people who are literally doctoring photos to get clicks.
Yeah. And one of the few things, and we've been going on here for a little bit, one of the few things you haven't mentioned, something that sort of came across my desk, if you will, is that there was a nonprofit organization that was in the middle of an outside mall. And all of the businesses around it were caught in the actual mob mentality of things, except for this one building. And something that came out of that, which a lot of people are also not talking about, those individuals that ran the nonprofit organization were out there today with garbage bags and garbage buckets, brooms and shovels, and sweeping stuff up. And you know what happened from a positive perspective, which we've been talking about for the last little while? Other people joined in, helping clean up the actual refuge that's taking place. And it's quite odd that a lot of the U.S. media is not really talking about this. And I happen to find that because, well, I like to think the CBC, in this particular case, is doing an awesome job covering both ends of the spectrum and trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on, so forth and so forth, and talking about stories like this and other individuals who are being positive and trying to move forward in that aspect. Odd, isn't it?
Yeah. So, final thoughts. I'm going to wrap it up on that point.
Well, final thoughts on this. When you use your hashtag, make sure you know what you're getting involved with, and at the same time, make sure that the movement that you're attaching yourself to, both on the physical and virtual level, is following the right path of things. And once things start going sideways and negative, jump off of it as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, I'd echo that as well. I mean, just be very aware of the situation that you're in. Be very aware of the motivation behind what you're doing as well. Always keep an eye out and always keep questioning things.
Yep.
I mean, like we grew up with that critical thinking stuff. I think that's something we got to get back to.
Yep. And also on top, remember, time is short, and be positive.
Absolutely.
Be kind to each other. Very important.
Try.
Yep.
At least try, because it's never as worse. It's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems.
Yeah.
It's always somewhere in the middle.
Yep.
All right. Well, that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. One last thing before we go.
All right.
I'm going to drop that back in really quickly.
We got t-shirts.
Plug in the t-shirts. Plug in the Discord. Plug in the Patreon. Everybody, check out the links in the description below. We love you all as always. Keep your stick on the ice. Bye-bye.
In a week. Cheers.